Broncos country. What is going on? Just wrapped up a Buffs video, and I couldn't wait to get on here to talk about the NFL draft. We're finally here. It's Christmas Eve. Are we going to get our quarterback? I think either way, or no matter how this whole thing plays out for our Denver Broncos, there's a hard way for the Broncos to screw this up because we got so many positions of need. Uh, there's a lot of different ways, in my opinion, how they could handle the draft, especially in round one, to where I'm going to be pleased. Maybe my standards have just lowered since Peyton Manning was here winning Super Bowls in 2015 or Super Bowl in 2015. But man, I am so pumped. I am so pumped. We're going to get a damn good football player tomorrow. And if we get a quarterback, which I'm hoping for, but it's not the end of the world if we don't. I know that Sean Payton's one of those coaches that's going to get the most out of these guys, whoever we pick. So I'm going to go ahead and give you my official big board, I guess you could call it, because I've never really done that of just running down like my top 7 targets in the first round for the Broncos. Of course, right now we got pick 12. That could totally change based on if we trade back, if we move up into the first round in the later half of the first round to have a second first round pick. We could trade up. Some goals that I have for the team. I would like to retain Patrick Surtain. I would like to retain our first round pick next year. But at the end of the day, we've been a football team that's been bad for many years. I'm not going to be too picky. I'm going to be excited if we get a quarterback tomorrow. So, hey, going to take you through my big board, my personal top 7 targets. Let me know in the comments what yours are. And smash that subscribe, that like. We're on our way to 500 subs. So my goal was 500 by draft day, but maybe we can do it by the end of the weekend. Let me share my screen, and we'll go ahead and get started. So I'm going to use PFF's big board here. And by the way, I just need to point this out. I love how it's with 2 C's. I think that's hilarious. But I'm going to go from my top overall target to my 7th overall target, okay? So it's going to be kind of out of order a little bit. There is a slight emphasis put on my list with quarterback because obviously that's such a huge position of need. But my target right now, my number 1 target, my player that I would really love the Broncos to pick with their first pick this year, ideally if they trade back, ideally they do trade back, is Bo Nix. Bo Nix, I think this might be a little bit of a hot take, but I think Bo Nix is kind of who people hope JJ McCarthy can be. I know that might seem kind of counterintuitive, at least with the college production, right? But Bo Nix, his college production is there. He's mature. He loves football. I think he's got all the intangibles. He threw down the middle of the field more than any other quarterback in this year's draft did, which is a huge part of the Sean Payton offense. Bo Nix isn't a fit on some of these other teams, but he's a damn good fit for this offense. 24, yeah, I don't really care too much. I think he's mature, and I do think he's, even though him and Zach Wilson are essentially the same age, I think he's a better quarterback right now than Zach Wilson. Now, Bo Nix also hasn't had the opportunity, for lack of a better term, to be ruined by the Jets and Nathaniel Hackett. I mean, he was ruined before Nathaniel Hackett, but I just had to throw that one dig in there. Bo Nix is my top target. I think he's the best quarterback for what the Broncos want to accomplish, and I think he's the most ready for it. But my number 2 quarterback or player on my big board is JJ McCarthy. Now, some of this has to do with positional value or perceived positional value on the draft board as well. I think Bo Nix you don't have to trade up for. I think JJ McCarthy you might have to. I think, hey, if he's there at 12 and you decide to pick him instead of Bo Nix, I totally get it. I'm not going to complain. I'm going to be thrilled. For both of these quarterbacks, there's a lot of things to like. There's also some things that are totally fair criticisms and why they're not talked about first overall picks, right? But JJ McCarthy, again, I think he's another guy that fits all the intangibles that you want with a quarterback. We've had quarterbacks here that honestly just didn't really care too much about football. Jay Cutler was one of them. Okay. Never truly loved football. I still wish we didn't trade him away when we did, but I think throughout the time in his career, we saw that, yeah, he just didn't love football obsessively. Paxton Lynch loved video games and Fortnite better or more than learning the playbook in Denver. That was a huge issue with the coaching staff when he was brought in. This wasn't an 8-play Memphis offense, if I'm paraphrasing for Gary Kubiak when speaking about Paxton Lynch. I think Drew Lock was dedicated, but I don't know if he was dedicated obsessively like I feel like JJ McCarthy has that label, as well as Bo Nix. JJ McCarthy, I would love to have him in Denver, and only 21 years old. So you do get him for a little bit longer. For instance, if he really hits, you got a long time with him as your franchise quarterback. But him and Bo Nix, they both have fine quarterback measurables, 6'3", 6'2". JJ McCarthy's going to have to put on a little bit more weight. I don't think he starts week one. I feel Bo Nix probably would. But we got Zach Wilson. We got Zach Wilson and Jarrett Stidham, okay? So those are my first two targets. Number 3 on my big board is Michael Penix Jr. I love Michael Penix Jr. He might not be as smooth of a fit for this offense as the first two quarterbacks that I mentioned, but the man's got arm talent. He does have injury concern, but man, this man is he also, I feel like, has all the intangibles. Big fan of Michael Penix. I would be so excited if the Broncos picked him. Again, I know he's not the perfect fit for this offense, but I think he's a really good quarterback, and we'll see if he can, like the guys that I just mentioned, round out their game a little bit more at the NFL level. Oh, that would be so cool if Michael Penix was here. Also, I have a bias against lefties, though. So, yeah, I like my quarterbacks right-handed. That's probably a stale take, but he's got a better arm than Tua. He's still a top 3 target on my big board, so you can't say I don't like him, okay? Now, number 4, let's see who I got right now. This is, okay, if we don't draft a quarterback with our 12th overall pick, maybe we do that later. Maybe we just say, forget it. We really are going to have the Zach Wilson and Jarrett Stidham experience, which, hey, if we decide to do that this year, I'm totally fine with it, okay? We'll have one more season of suck, and then we'll go get our franchise quarterback next year. But nonetheless, I think it will be entertaining. It will be entertaining, okay? That's why I feel like we can't really lose this draft, in my opinion. Sean Payton can't. The Broncos can't. But let's say, forget using our first pick on quarterback. Let's go get the best weapon possible. I don't think we're going to be able to get somebody like a Duze or Neighbors. So Brock Bowers. Hey, wouldn't it be nice if we had the next Travis Kelce in the division? Okay. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Brock Bowers, fantastic tight end, fantastic weapon. Yes. Is this kind of a weird pick, picking a tight end so high? Sure. But now we see tight ends are used so much more in the passing game. I would love to have Brock Bowers here. I would love to have Brock Bowers and get a quarterback in this year's draft. I think that would be super cool. But hey, Brock Bowers, I would love to see him in orange and blue. We haven't had that stud tight end, honestly, since Shannon Sharp. We had a couple good years of Julius Thomas, but he wasn't, he was definitely more of a finesse tight end. Brock Bowers, while he's not George Kittle, he's physical enough. He's fine. Okay. Now, my number 5 target, sticking on offense, because I feel like offense, it needs to be the focus, honestly, of this team, because our offense has been abysmal to watch for years. Troy Fautanu, okay? Let's just say we want to get the best player available. I like Troy Fautanu. I always pronounce his name incorrectly. I guess you could get Fuaga as well from Oregon State. Get a tackle. Trade Garrett Bowles for something else, okay? Or for another pick. And maybe you can get a late first, early second, and get that quarterback with that pick or another weapon. But hey, if we're just going to go best player available, get a tackle, get a franchise tackle that can be here for a long time. And that way we can move off of Garrett Bowles, reset that positional spending in a sense at the left tackle position for quite a while. Get younger. I love it. Okay. But let's say those guys are gone or we move back a little bit. Those guys aren't available. Guys, you know we need an edge. So coming in at number 5, Laiatu Latu. This guy's a beast. Terrorized my Buffs. He absolutely terrorized my Buffs earlier this year. Really talented guy. We need that alpha in the edge room on defense. Laiatu Latu. Yes, please. Okay. And then lastly, let's say he's not available. We need some help in the interior. We could go after somebody like Jerzon Newton, but I have an affinity for Texas Longhorns players, much like Sean Payton. Go get Byron Murphy. I would love it. Put him right in there in the middle of that defense. Have him work, okay, on that defensive line. I would absolutely be thrilled. Some honorable mentions. I wanted to include these guys because I would love it if the Broncos could get these guys, but I feel like these are players that only if they trade down into the later part of the first round or they trade into the first round again for a second pick that they could target, and that's wide receivers. We trade Cortland Sutton. Maybe we do that and save some cap there. We get a day 3 pick or, a 3rd round pick, something like that. But another Texas Longhorns player that I would love to see here, if possible, would be A.D. Mitchell, really talented wide receiver. He got that prototypical alpha size, 6'4", 196. I think he's going to be great. Another guy right there as well, Brian Thomas Jr. From LSU, and then Troy Franklin. And I really like Troy Franklin, especially if we get Bo Nix. Just already bring that continuity over. Okay? Wouldn't that be nice? You already have that chemistry. That's why it's like, hey, if we draft Bo Nix, go get Bucky Irving because we're going to use him in the passing game. They already have that rapport. Or if we draft Michael Penix, hey, there are some different wide receivers from Washington that we could, draft and also bring in somebody like Dylan Johnson with a 7th round pick if he's there to be a spell running back from the Washington Huskies. I think that's kind of cool. And even if we draft JJ McCarthy, there are, some Michigan weapons that we could bring in. Roman Wilson, Blake Corum. Although I don't know if I'm like super high on Blake Corum. And then I thought there was one more wide receiver that was from Michigan here. But anyways, I'm not going to run through it all. But that is my big board with those honorable mentions. So to summarize, it is Bo Nix, JJ McCarthy, Michael Penix, Brock Bowers, Troy Fautanu, / Fuaga, Laiatu Latu, Byron Murphy, and then wide receiver. Get a weapon. This offense needs juice, baby. So thank you guys so much for entertaining me. I will get to some of your comments, and I will wrap this up. Hey, Critical Master 420. Also, wonderful name. I like Nix. Me too. I like Nix as well. Again, I'm just kind of approaching this season with an open mind. And I think we're going to get a good player regardless. And, if it is indeed the Zach Wilson and Jared Stidham experience, hey, we at least know what we're doing, right? But one thing that I don't want to see happen is if we do draft somebody like Bo Nix at 35 or something like that, let's just commit to the guy. Let's have organizational commitment. I think Drew Lock would have ended up better if he had that unwavering commitment. It didn't help having a head coach here where people didn't believe in him and they didn't really want him. It didn't help switching offensive coordinators for him consistently as well. So there are things that we can do. And I feel like with Sean Payton being the head coach, the play caller, the organization trusting him, is that you're going to get that support that you didn't exactly have over the years since, maybe since Mike Shanahan was here. Because it's like Gary Kubiak wasn't on board with Paxton Lynch. So like this type of divide within the organization has happened for quite a while. Guys haven't been sold on the quarterback coming in. I just want to see commitment. I want to see belief. And on another note, guys, 48 hours, 36 hours removed from the uniform launch, The uniforms, man, I'm feeling them. I'm feeling them. The jerseys, especially, I love it. Still don't like that white helmet, but I understand now that per NFL rules, which is dumb, you can't have the navy helmet with the all navy pant jersey look. That's stupid. Okay. So I hope we don't wear that one often, and hopefully they change that rule. I like the idea of the white being worn with the white jersey, and that's really it. But overall, like the uniforms, like I like them. I actually really like them, and I feel like they're really unique. So y'all let me know your thoughts in the comments. After I shut this thing down, hit that like again, subscribe. We're on our way to 500, and yeah, just let me know like what do you want from the Broncos in round one? I just want us to make a pick and hopefully get a quarterback. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow, and as always, go Broncos.